IO Interactive's Hitman was brilliant. In my opinion, it was one of the best games in the series, so it's a shame that the episodic manner in which it was released put off so many would-be players. But what you might not know, unless you're old like me, is that 32 years before IO carved their game up into tiny little bite-sized chunks, another game named Hitman was released, only this one didn't let you murder Santa Claus with a fire axe. This here is Hitman, or The Hitman if you want to go by the game's intro screen. It's an arcade shoot-'em-up by Barry Jones that was released for the ZX Spectrum in 1984 on the budget label Scorpio Games World. Back when it was on the shop shelves, it would have cost you a cool £1.99, the perfect pocket money price. Hitman has a rather unique feature whereby only one side of the tape, side 2, contains the actual game. Load up side 1 and you'll be met with what basically amounts to an illustrated instruction manual explaining exactly how the gameplay works. Why they couldn't just write all this in the inlay is beyond me, especially seeing as to watch this you have to sit through 6 minutes worth of load time, but hey, at least they're trying something different, I guess. To set the scene, it tells you that you, the Hitman, have been employed by the boss to assassinate 9 government agents before the police catch up with you and lock you in the slammer. Press a button and we're then shown the 4 weapons the Hitman can use: the crossbow, shotgun, magnum, and the Colt 45. Stood next to those is a picture of the titular Hitman, looking the polar opposite of inconspicuous with his fancy fedora, dark glasses, and sleazy porno tash. Ugh. Oh well, at least he managed to button his shirt up neatly, I guess. The next screen is a section called The Getaway, which explains that the Hitman must choose a vehicle to escape in, ranging from a helicopter to a simple bicycle, whilst also taking into consideration the reliability and cost of said transport. Now, this might give you the impression that there's some kind of in-depth money management simulation going on behind the scenes, but in reality, the whole system is about as basic as wiping your ass on a dock leaf. The next screen assaults your eyeballs with a truly garish colour scheme as it shows off a detailed minimap and tells you that your Hitman is armed with said map and a direction finder. Once again, this is a case of the game overselling itself. That map there doesn't actually appear in the full game at all, and the direction finder? Well, as you'll soon discover, that's a load of bollocks as well. Anyway, the next couple of screens are actually quite cool. They feature big, bright, colourful representations of some city streets. They're well drawn and rather detailed. It's a shame then that the following drawing of a murder victim is so balked. He looks like someone planking next to a child's drawing of Australia. And check out his tiny trotter feet. No wonder the Hitman caught him. There ain't no running away on those weird little man hooves. For no reason at all, there's one last screen showing off a televised news report about all the crimes you haven't even committed yet. It's technically pointless as it has nothing to do with the gameplay itself, but I'll let it slide because of that fantastic eye-melting wallpaper behind the telly. If you can tear yourself away from that optical hellscape without it sucking your soul out through your eyeballs, you'll be given the option to A. read the intro again, or B. reset the Spectrum, which, to be fair, is the only sane option available. Alrighty, with that out of the way, let's try out the actual game. Before you get cracking with the agent whacking, you're first going to need to talk to the boss. He's the guy that will be paying you for all the hitmanning you're about to do. He seems friendly enough for a guy with vaginas for armpits, but don't let his mild demeanour fool you. If you fail just one hit, he'll fire you faster than you can say, "Hey, why do you have vaginas for armpits?" Once you've accepted a hit, you'll need to pay for your getaway vehicle, which is the one and only time money management comes into play during the game. Each of the 4 available vehicles gives you a certain chance of escaping, with the helicopter guaranteeing you a successful escape every time. For the first hit, you won't be able to afford the chopper though, so you'll need to splash your cash on something a little bit cheaper. Unfortunately, that means you run the risk of getting caught by the cops. If this happens, you'll face a trial, which amounts to nothing more than waiting a couple of seconds for a verdict to flash up on the screen. A not guilty means you can carry on with the hits, but a guilty verdict will lead to an instant game over. There's no way you can affect the outcome here either, so it's really not worth risking the cheaper options, unless you want to go for a higher score. Next up, you'll need to choose your instrument of murder. Will you go for the Magnum, the Colt 45, the shotgun, or the laser gun? Wait, what happened to the crossbow from the instructions? Why did they replace a valid stealth weapon with a fictional space gun? It makes absolutely no sense. Either way, no matter what weapon I decided to use, I couldn't see any differences between them, so it makes that choice seem rather redundant. I mean, who's not going to choose the laser gun out of those 4 options if it makes absolutely no difference? Once all your hit management is done, it's time to enter the city and search for your target's hideout. At this point, the game will load in a random selection of buildings, and then, by process of elimination, you'll need to uncover which one is hiding your mark. This is where the aforementioned direction finder comes into play, or, in this case, doesn't come into play. You get 5 guesses as to your hit's location, and with each wrong choice, you'll actually be given a clue by your contact, which will give you a rough idea of where to search next. The clue comes in the form of 2 arrows and will be a mix of either up or down and left or right. The easiest way I found to do this section was to head to the centermost building first and ask my contact for directions there. That way, the contact's clue will effectively cut the screen into quarters, drastically reducing the amount of houses you'll need to search. By doing it this way, I could normally find the target within 2 or 3 moves, but you'll still need to practice caution. If you do manage to use up all your hints, it's straight to the game over screen. Finally, it's onto the actual hit. There are 2 scenarios, the first being set here in a rubbish-filled back alley. Seriously though, what kind of Poundland government agent sets up his secret hideout behind 3 bins in a shitty alleyway? Anyway, the target will pop his head out from behind the bins at irregular intervals, and it's up to you to shoot him in the face before the time is up and he does a runner. It's not that hard, although the sluggish crosshair can be a bit unwieldy to use, and no, just in case you're wondering, you can't shoot the cat. The second scenario gives your mark an actual proper building to hide in. You're up against a time limit again, but this time the target peeks out of windows, either on the ground floor or the first floor. Again, getting a kill is pretty easy. All you need to do is make sure your gun is pointing at the right floor of the house by pressing up or down to raise or lower the gun. Then just line up your shot and press fire for an instant kill. And that's it. Those 2 scenarios, rinse and repeat until you've killed all 9 targets and completed the game. Do that and you'll be awarded an extra £5,000 bonus from the boss before you're booted out into the street and given your final score. It turns out Hitman's biggest crime is that it's just far too easy to complete. I managed to breeze through the game on my second go after I'd worked out all the strategies, and unless you want to go for higher scores, there's literally no point replaying the game at all because you've seen everything it has to offer by the time you've played through the first 2 hits. As a side note, Hitman was actually re-released a couple of years later under the name Chicago Vindicator for the Firecracker software label. It was adapted by someone named S. Norbury, who, to be completely blunt with you, did a pretty shitty job of it all. I mean, for a start, they misspelled the name of the game on the title screen. Chicago? Are you kidding me? Elsewhere in the game, the words Hitman have been scruffily replaced by Chicago Vindicator, with no accounting for the fact that the extra letters don't fit into any of the speech bubbles. In fact, in this shot you can see they even forgot to delete the H for Hitman, and here on the end screen, the new words are so long, portions of them don't even get removed when the new text comes in. That's some really half-assed work there, Mr. Norbury. Still, at least the box art for Chicago Vindicator here is better than the original super basic pink border and crappy felt tip pen picture of a hitman. Chicago Vindicator here makes things look much more action-packed, with a lovely cityscape set behind images of various modes of transport, some poor dude getting whacked, and a much cooler and more modern-looking hitman. So, how did Hitman review back in the day? Well, I could only track down 2 examples, but they were rather split to say the least. Personal Computer Games magazine gave the game a 3 out of 10 and called it a tedious pile of rubbish, whilst Home Computer Weekly gave it top marks, saying it was the best value for money the reviewer had ever seen. Not too sure about that one. To be honest with you, I'd probably put myself somewhere in the middle of those 2 reviews. The gameplay itself is super basic, and it is incredibly easy if you know what you're doing. But at the same time, there are some bits that are very nicely presented, and there are loads of neat little ideas in here which, if expanded upon, would have made a really good Hitman sim. So there you go, that's another episode of Games You Never Knew Existed, done and dusted. If you enjoyed this little look at a long-lost Hitman game, do give this video a like and subscribe for more from Eurogamer. If you want more retro action, perhaps check out some of the other Ginky episodes that are on screen right now, where I talk about the Witness game you never knew existed, the Crackdown game you never knew existed, the End is Nigh game you never knew existed, and the Star Fox games you never knew existed. Thanks for watching, and do have a lovely day. Goodbye.